Thank you for watching. I'm back. I really don't know how many videos I'm going to end up doing today. This is going to be like part 10 or 12, I think. I am here until they kick me out, which is going to be very close to dark, and I got here very close to dawn. So, I want to read this again, because I want you to see that it's not just the Buddhists who had means for paying at the personal level, individual level, at civilization, the people who are doing what I'm doing. And that there is even God, even these books are telling you. This is chapter, the provision for priests and Levites. It's telling you that by doing what I'm doing for you, reading these books, ministering to you, preaching to you, talking to you, philosophizing to you, philaletheia for you. Hello, by the way, I'm Shaggy, the philaletheia. If you don't know what that means, philaletheia, it means lover of truth. I don't know why you would start so deep in this with your first click. Maybe YouTube loves me enough to finally give me new friends, and that's great that you're here. You're probably going to hate this. You can call me Shaggy if you like. I like Shags. I also like V and Vincent. Don't call me Vinny, and I hate Vince. So we move forward back to the provision for the priests and Levites, reading verse 6 again. And if a Levite comes from any of your towns out of all Israel where he lives, and he may come when he desires. What this means is that the Levites were mendicant. It means they were traveling. And so that means that if a Levite lived in town A and travels to town C, then he's allowed to do that. You weren't really allowed to travel between towns unless you had passes. You were a merchant or you had some benefits to the town. It's exactly like if you understand anything about the colonial America period, you weren't allowed to immigrate. You weren't allowed to just as a person or as a family just pack up and move to a new town. They wouldn't have work and a home for you. You understand? And the rules of hospitality mean, even in the colonial period, that you showed up and they were required to feed and clothe you and house you. They were required to take care of you. And so if you didn't have a skill or a trade that they needed, you just weren't allowed in town because they had to take care of you. And then you become like Topeka, and you just become a town of homeless people that have no jobs, no job skills. You become a nanny state, and every city state since the first has been afraid of that, because with that comes destruction. So if you elect Kamala Harris, just end it. Just put a gun right to the head of the Constitution and be done with it. To the place that the Lord will choose. And what that means is that they were wandering, and it wasn't about the will of the body or of the will of the self. What that means is that they opened themselves entirely up to the road, and they just went wherever their feet carried them and wherever hitchhikers dropped them off, is what it means. The will of the Lord here. The Lord will choose, but it probably the actual way that's written in Hebrew is probably the way the word to the place that the Lord wills, and that's what I'm doing. I've just put myself at the mercy of God, the mercy of the will of the universe, and I've said, all I really need from you is a few $100s a month, and to have the cops leave me alone, or at least for the cops to be merciful and kind. Because if the cops can be merciful and kind, I can keep from getting resentful and hurt about my feelings. And if I can meet some brethren who understand what I'm doing and understand this passage I'm about to read, maybe I can make more than that, and I can just go ahead and get a home. A permanent place where I don't have to worry about this. Maybe even I can buy some land and I can just put the tent there, and then it makes sense. You understand? And if a Levite comes from any of your towns out of all Israel where he lives, and he may come when he desires, to the place that the Lord will choose, and ministers in the name of the Lord his God, like all his fellow Levites, who stand to minister there before the Lord, then he may have equal portions to eat, besides what he receives from the sale of his patrimony. I assume the patrimony is the clothes that your father gave you when you left the house. I don't know what it could be. Unless, you have, goats or something. But I don't know how you could have it. It just said you can't have any of that shit if you're a Levite. And so what that means is that even in the time of Deuteronomy, 250 BC, they were having to be fiddly in their language and say, Levites, you're not allowed to own land. You've been owning land for centuries that is not yours to own. Get off that land. Sell it. Now. Abominable practices. When you come into the land that the Lord your God is giving you, you shall not learn to follow the abominable practices of those nations. That's actually true. That should be true for you too. When you go to school, you need to be better about teaching your children that the things that they will experience among the uncivilized children at school are the things that they have to refuse to do. The back talk? Back talk is unacceptable. You shall not learn to follow the abominable practices of those nations. There shall not be found among you anyone who burns his son or his daughter as an offering. That means there shall be no one who aborts their child in order to have a better future. Anyone who practices divination or tells fortunes or interprets omens or is a sorcerer or a charmer or a medium or a necromancer or one who inquires of the dead. For whoever does these things is an abomination to the Lord. And because of these abominations, the Lord your God is driving them out before you. You shall be blameless before the Lord your God, for these nations which you are about to dispossess listen to fortune tellers and to diviners. But as for you, the Lord your God has not allowed you to do this. You're not allowed to participate in math magic. You're not allowed to participate in time magic. And you're most certainly not allowed to talk to the motherfucking dead. Why? That all lies. It's all lying. Every bit of this stuff is a lie. And I don't just mean in the context of the Mouton and the Aletheia. A new prophet like Moses, and this is what we're here for. The Lord your God will raise up for you a prophet. The Lord your God, says Moses, will raise up for you a prophet like me from among you, from your brothers. It is to him you shall listen. Just as you desired of the Lord your God at Horeb on the day of the assembly, when you said, let me not hear again the voice of the Lord my God, or see the great fire any more, lest I die. And the Lord said to me, they are right in what they have spoken. They're talking about when Moses went up onto the mountain the first time. God showed himself to all of the Israelites, all of the Jewish people that were with Moses. He showed himself the first time, and they turned their faces away. That's why they made that idol. They were like, we prefer this lesser thing. It's significantly less demanding of us emotionally, ethically, morally, intellectually. And they were right in what they have spoken to turn their faces away from me. I will raise up for them a prophet like you from among their brothers, and I will put my words in his mouth, and he shall speak to them all that I command him. And whoever will not listen to my words that he shall speak in my name, I myself will require it of him. But the prophet who presumes to speak a word in my name that I have not commanded him to speak, or who speaks in the name of other gods, that same prophet shall die. And if you say in your heart, how may we know the word that the Lord has not spoken? When a prophet speaks in the name of the Lord, if the word does not come to pass or come true, that is a word that the Lord has not spoken. The prophet has spoken it presumptuously. You need not be afraid of him. Meaning, you need not be afraid of his curses in life. Oh yeah, he'll die. He'll die eventually. And what that means is that his books, his writings, his message will also die with him. So you understand that this means all nations. What Deuteronomy is telling you, it was written in 250 BC. It's telling you that every nation that collapsed under the weight of an inheritance was a crooked nation. We are collapsing under the weight of a power exchange, of an exchange of power. Every year, the burden of the exchange of power between presidents gets worse and worse and worse and worse. Eventually, it's going to break. And when it breaks, we will be proven an unrighteous nation, because God destroys unrighteous things. God is the narrator. God is time. The goddess is entropy. So if you think God is order, you better believe that the goddess is utter destruction. Atomic destruction. Destruction at the level of atoms. Everything annihilated. Annihilation. Unnihil. Nothing nation. Nothing-ation. Do you understand how serious that is? No one survives an apocalypse. The graybeard who survives the apocalypse is the Book of Eli. It's the 16 candles thought experiment that we did maybe 2 hours ago. Come on, guys. I am going to refill my coffee and maybe get a French fry. I actually changed my mind because we have more prophet to go. And so when they said the prophet, are you the prophet? Are you the one that's coming to tell us how to believe properly? No. And it's not even us how to believe properly. Are you the one who's going to tell the king, the Messiah, how to act properly? Notice that Elijah is not a judge. And they're not waiting for a returned judge. The judges system before kings worked so badly, nobody wanted to go back to that. So why do you? Okay, and so the next time that prophet is... That's really interesting to me. The next time in this canon that prophet is mentioned isn't until Matthew. There's a prophets, plural, mentioned once in Psalms, but this prophet literature is all New Testament. It wasn't Old Testament. That means that it's a rare word. What that means is that the Levites and priests didn't know either. They didn't know what it meant. And you have to understand that this is telling you, and has been telling you for up to the point of 250 BCE, it's been telling you for 1,000 years that it doesn't understand either. There's a break, there's a gap, and in that gap resides God. And it's up for you. It's up to you, the individual, to experience it and know. We'll know who experienced it and knows because he'll be the prophet. That's how we'll know. He'll be right. When he speaks, he'll just be right. He won't be constantly proved wrong. Well, who do you know who's always right when he speaks? I know someone. Knowing better than you do. Prophecy has no mentions in the Old Testament. Prophecies, no mentions in the Old Testament. Prophetic, no mentions in the Old Testament. That's interesting to me. So let's read Matthew 10. Yeah, let's read Matthew 10. I'm not getting bored. That's what you don't understand, is I'm not getting bored. This is endlessly interesting to me. If you're getting bored, that's a real bummer for you because, well, it's a bummer for me too. You bum me out if you're getting bored. I made my life about this. I want to know. I want the answer. I want the truth. And if I work hard enough for it in public, maybe somebody will pay me. Okay, so we're in Matthew. I forgot what chapter and verse I was looking for. This is how this goes for me, guys. 10:41. I'm going to do it every time. Chapter 10, verses 41. But I just want chapter 10. Okay. This is called the 12 Apostles. So he's going to talk about the prophet in the context of the 12 Apostles. Matthew, that is. And he called to him, Jesus, his 12 disciples, and gave them authority over unclean spirits to cast them out and to heal every disease and every affliction. So we've seen a case where they couldn't. He gave them the authority, but they weren't faithful enough. The names of the 12 apostles are these. First Simon, who is called Peter, and Andrew, his brother, James, the son of Zebedee, and John, his brother, Philip and Bartholomew, Thomas and Matthew, the tax collector, James, the son of Alphaeus, and Thaddeus, Simon the zealot. Now you got to remember, zealots were holy warriors. and Judas Iscariot, who betrayed him. And you got to know about Iscariot means he's from Cariot, and Cariot is mentioned in another book as a city of cult soldiers. Very, very good ones. What just happened? These 12 Jesus sent out, instructing them, "Go nowhere among the Gentiles and enter no town of the Samaritans, but go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." Do you hear that? The lost sheep of the house of Israel. Enter no town of the Samaritans. They've never been Jewish. Don't do it. Go nowhere among the Gentiles. Don't go among the Greeks. Don't go among the Samaritans. Go among Jews. That is, people who already believe in the struggle with God. The house of Israel, the lost sheep of the house of Israel, is people who already know to struggle with monotheism. Whether it's with this tradition or the Ionian Greek or the philosophical. Find those people. Don't find pagans. Don't find people in sex cult. Don't find people in warrior cult. Find the people already engaged in seeking out the one. This is why they were called Philolite. And proclaim as you go, saying, "The kingdom of heaven is at hand. Heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse lepers, cast out demons." Raising the dead does not mean from physical death. It means the dead in spirit, folks. It means people who are lost. Raising the dead means lifting them out of poverty, out of death, out of despair. Cleanse lepers, cast out demons. There are all kinds of footnotes here. Do you want me to read them to you? The kingdom of heaven is at hand is footnoted with, or the kingdom of heaven has come near. Leprosy was a term for several skin diseases. And then this is telling me that this next passage has parallels in both Mark and Luke. You receive without paying. Give without pay. What that means is you received life and you received all of this wisdom without having to pay for it. Now I didn't. I didn't know Jesus. You know that, right? You know that none of this that I'm giving to you costs me nothing. I keep telling you that I have absolutely sunk an uncountable amount of money into this. I've made fewer than $300. That covers none of the tens of thousands of dollars that I've sunk into this. Thousands of dollars just in the books alone. And then if my time, as I've said, is worth approaching 20 hours, and let's just say that I've put 40 hours of this in for 20 years, and that's about right. Well, 40 hours a week for 20 years. Do we know how many hours are in a week right off the top of our head? Well, there are... Wait, do we know how many hours there are in a year? We know that there are 40 hours in the week and that there are 52 weeks in the year, so we know that there are... What is that? 50 times 20 is 20,000. So I got 2080. That's how many there are in a, that's how many hours I've put in a year. And then I've put in minimum 2,000 hours a year, 20 years. Means, god damn this paper. Why am I the way I am, and why can't things just work for me the way I want them to? The best laid plans, I'm telling you. La la la. Dee 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 dee. I can do math. So we've got minimum 401,600 hours. So that means I've got 401,000 hours. 401,600 hours. And I'm saying that my time is worth $20 an hour. On average, over that time. That means that I have spent at least 800, no. That means in time, I have invested minimum $8 million into this. Minimum $8 million. Just in time sunk. Just in time sunk. I'm $8 million in debt. You think that $300 I made last 2 months, covers that? What about the compound interest? A Jewish idea, by the way. Heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse lepers, cast out demons. You received without paying. I did not. I paid minimum $8 million just in time sunk alone. Jesus didn't give me shit for free. Not like he did to the disciples. Give without pay. I'm 8 million sunk. Let's just call it 9 million sunk. And I still make these videos available for free. I'm still working for free. Still. Acquire no gold, or silver, or copper for your belts. No bag for your journey, or 2 tunics, or sandals, or a staff. For the labor deserves his food. For the laborer deserves his food. And that's the thing. Right now, I'm down to a sandal, 2 shirts, 3 shirts, a pair and 2 pairs of pants. The same clothes I've been wearing through all that rain. All that clothing is going to be destroyed if I don't make $60 in the next couple of days. All of the clothes that I brought as provisions are going to be destroyed. Ruined. My pillow, ruined. And if it's not the next couple of days. I'm serious. But Matthew is telling us that that's what Jesus told the disciples. That might be what the patriarchy is, that the Levites were expected to sell in Deuteronomy. Your extra clothing, your extra shoes even. My extra shoes are going to be destroyed. I'm going to be left with these sandals for the winter. I'm excited about it, but it's going to suck. My feet are going to be cold. Acquire no silver or gold or copper. And whatever town or village you enter, find out who is worthy in it and stay there until you depart. That means that abuse the words, the rules of hospitality is what it reads like. That means find the richest person you can and force them to let you stay with them. But that's not what it says. It says find the worthy and stay with them. The worthy. Find someone who's worthy of being proselytized to and live with them for a couple of days until they see the light and they suggest to you someone else to live with. This is what I keep telling you. You bounce from people to person to person to person who's willing to pay you 10 or 20 bucks or whatever, and you minister to them and at the time when they give you the money, and then the ministry's over after that. You say thank you, you give them an exemplary thing, they're going to tell you a thing about their life, you're going to give them a piece of wisdom, and then you move the fuck on. And the next time they pay you money, you give them a little bit more, and you give them a little bit more, and you give them a little bit more, because you deserve to eat. If you're ministering the word of God, you deserve to eat. You deserve at least to eat. Jesus is saying it outright. Matthew is saying it outright. That proselytization in its own right, just exactly like the Hindus and the Buddhists, is labor deserving of a day's rest and a day's food. I'm not asking you to provide me a day's rest. I'm asking the city to let me take a day's rest for what I'm doing. I'm asking you to fucking help me eat. Help me fight the weather. How hard is that? How selfish are you? I know when I managed that gas station, the UDF, I used to carry cash in my pocket so that people who couldn't quite cover their gas, or people who couldn't quite cover their hot dog, or people who really wanted a second hot dog or a drink to go with their hot, I used to just buy it for them outright. Here you go, I got the cash. Here you go, buddy. I got you, man. Kids, I used to slip dollars, like singles, twos, threes, like slip a $5 to a little kid whose mom obviously just did not have the money to buy them a candy. And it makes kids crazy to not get a candy sometimes. It just makes them crazy. Or just like, I used to carry wrapper candy, individually wrapped candies, or like Halloween candies. I used to keep them in my apron and I used to just give them to kids. Not for me. I used to just kids of poor moms. Kids who just hadn't had a candy that day. And I used to say, Mom, hey, can I offer him a piece of candy? Can I offer her a piece of candy? Would you like a piece of candy? Would you like it if I offered them a piece of this candy? Here you go. Here's a sucker, butterscotch or whatever. Just whatever. I mean, usually mints or some dumb bullshit. It's cheap to get that wrapper candy. It's like $1.50 at the dollar store. And man, I believe that when what goes around comes around. But there's a lot of time that I spend angry with God that that's just not in my life. But that's why I'm ministering the Word of God. Because if you were listening to the Word of God, if you were hearing God speak to you, you would know better than to behave the way you do. Not just toward me, toward everyone in your life. As you enter the house, greet it. And if the house is worthy, let your peace come upon it. But if it is not worthy, let your peace return to you. And if anyone, and what that means, your peace is Piece to us. Give your peace to the house, which means share with it your wisdom. Share with it what makes you calm at heart, like I'm doing. For those people who click on my words and continue to click on my word, I'm sharing with you my peace. This is what brings me peace. These books. These are how I'm able to live in a tent in the cold and find peace. The eagerness, the excitement to return to the Mothman later when it gets darker, and to read the Gospels, and to read the Word of the Lord, and to read Plato, and to speak the truth, always to speak the truth. That's my peace. And if the house is worthy, let your peace come upon it. And what that means is, speak it to everyone. Confess the truth to everyone. And if the house is worthy, if the family is worthy, if the city and the individual person clicking into my videos is worthy, they will hear me, and they will pay, and they will elevate me. And if they are unworthy, they will not. And it really is that simple. If you don't, you're not. It's that simple. You're not worthy of me continuing to talk to you. You're not worthy of me continuing to try to elevate you. Look at the sadness in my voice and on my face. Hear the sadness in my voice. Look at the sadness on my face. I don't want to leave you behind. You don't know how many hundreds of people I've left behind in my life because they just weren't worthy of me. But are you? Ask yourself. If you're not, you could be. So I'm not gonna be. What is that? It's just not for you to be worthy of me? But if it's not worthy, let your peace return to you. And that means don't let their trial, don't let their drama, as we say, bring you down. And that's what I do. I enter a group chat. They want to turn on me. I leave a group chat. It's that easy. You take a job. They want to turn on you. You leave the job. It's that easy. I don't owe any duty. I'm not going to get any honors. This is what I was talking about. You weren't here, but I was talking about one of the managers here, and it turned out I really liked her, and we had a good experience together. But I was talking about how she's too young for this job. She's going to be expecting honor, and it's not going to come with the job. So what? You want the honor from your parents? Well, honor thy parents and your mother and father. Nowhere does it say parents honor your children. You understand? And if anyone will not receive you or listen to your words, shake off the dust from your feet when you leave the house or town. Truly, I say to you, it will be more bearable on the day of judgment for the land of Sodom and Gomorrah than for that town. And that's what I'm telling you. If you can't listen to me, you're already lost. You are already diving headlong into the flames of destruction.